there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. A few months ago, I got into the Oathbreaker format and have built some competitive decks. Now I want to showcase my casual deck, the deck that I like to play the most, and this is Sarkhan Unbroken. Sarkhan Unbroken with the signature spell Contentious Plan. So why I like Sarkhan Unbroken is, who doesn't have a soft spot for dragons? Sarkhan Unbroken is the key dragon planeswalker, as the -8 allows you to search your library for any number of dragons and put them on to the battlefield. So Sarkhan Unbroken wants to get up to the -8 as quickly as possible. It also has its own ramp built into Sarkhan Unbroken. You can use the +1 to draw a card, then add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and it can also protect itself with a 4/4 dragon. But we rarely ever use the negative ability. The whole point to Sarkhan Unbroken is to get up to that 8, to then ultimate and find all of your dragons out of your deck. And to do that, we have chosen the signature spell being Contentious Plan. Contentious Plan is just a 2-mana proliferate and draw a card. So if you cast Contentious Plan a couple times, Sarkhan Unbroken will be ready to ultimate, and then you will go get every dragon out of your deck. So the combo that I like with Sarkhan Unbroken is going to be Scourge of Valkas. Scourge of Valkas states whenever Scourge of Valkas or any other dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control. So if you're getting every dragon out of your deck, you will have enough damage to kill all of your opponents easily with just the amount of dragons that are contained in your Oathbreaker deck. Now our backup plan is just to run a lot of Haste dragons. So for whatever reason, Scourge of Valkas is stuck in our hand, or it's been discarded, or whatnot, we're going to be running a package full of Haste dragons. So we're going to run cards like Hypersonic Dragon, which is flying in Haste, a 4/4, and you can cast sorcery spells with low-add flash. This was also pretty good to proactively put out, as you can cast your Contentious Plan on your opponent's turn, rather than showcasing it on your turn. Then we have the Scourge Hellkite, which has Riot, which is pseudo-haste. The Tyrant's Familiar, which becomes huge if you control Sarkhan, becomes a 7/7, and also can ping down opponent's creatures. The Thundermaw Hellkite, which will tap all of your creatures with all your opponent's creatures with flying to help you get in for lethal. The Stormbreath Dragon, which has protection from white, flying, and haste. And the Monstrosity 3, which can deal damage to an opponent. The Glorybringer, which can also have flying, haste, and do damage to your opponent's creatures. The Hellkite Charger, which we rarely ever activate the ability. Usually when the ultimate goes off from Sarkhan Unbroken, you're not going to have another turn after it. But if you do get up to 7 mana, you can take extra attack phases. Sometimes this deck just, where your Sarkhan gets shut down, this does just turn into like a beatdown type deck, and so this is a useful ability. The Rorix Bladewing, which is just a vanilla flying haste 6/5 for the 6 mana, and that's kind of the haste package for the dragons that I've chosen. The other package for dragons is going to be the utility cards. So the first one being Intet the Dreamer. This is a 6 mana. When it deals combat damage to a player, you can pay 2 and a blue to exile a top card of your library, and you can play that card without paying its mana cost for as long as the Intet the Dreamer is on the battlefield. So it's a good flex card that can help you ramp out bigger dragons. Again, if Sarkhan is shut down, this is a nice little card to help you get back in the game. We have cards like Bogardan Hellkite. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 5 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures or players. Of course, the Lathliss, the Dragon Queen. This is one that you definitely want to pick up with the Valkas, the Scourge of Valkas, because it's going to create a 5/5 red dragon creature every time another dragon comes into play, and all those things will stack, and you get to choose how those stacks, and it will be lethal very easily with Lathliss. Oathbreaker Hellkite, which whenever a dragon attacks, which we have a bunch of haste dragons in the deck, you get a 6/6 red dragon creature token with flying. The Balefire Dragon, which when it deals combat damage to a player, deals that much damage to each creature that player controls. So again, if you ramp this out, this is a good way to shut down other creature-based strategies. And the Hellkite Tyrant. The reason I've included Hellkite Tyrant is Oathbreaker does have a lot of mana rocks, and you can take all of your opponent's mana rocks and shut them down from ramping. So again, if this turns into a grindy type deck, it's one of those dragons you do want. And then we're going to run both Atarkas. Atarka World Render, which whenever a dragon you control attacks, they gain double strike. And Dragonlord Atarka, whenever it enters the battlefield, deals 5 damage divided among any number of creatures and planeswalkers your opponents control. So it's a nice dragon that curves quite well with Sarkhan. They can take care of problematic both planeswalkers, which of course this is Oathbreaker, so everyone's going to be running planeswalkers, and creatures. So that's kind of the package for the finishers for dragons. Those are our threats in our deck. So now we're going to go over the ways that we are going to abuse Sarkhan or ramp Sarkhan out, and just all the other cards that will make this package work. So first of all, of course, the combination with Doubling Season. Doubling Season will double the amount of Planeswalker loyalty counters that Sarkhan enters, and Sarkhan entering at 4 means that Sarkhan will immediately enter at 8, and then you can immediately ultimate Sarkhan and, of course, win the game at that point. Now, getting Sarkhan up to 8 is very important, so we're going to run a couple of cards that are going to help us get there. The first one being Evolution Sage, and this is going to make more sense as we get into the ramp package. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you proliferate. And Flux Chandler says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you proliferate. They both have a very similar role in this because we are going to be running a lot of non-creature spells, especially non-creature ramp spells. So Evolution Sage and Flux Chandler are going to be able to get Sarkhan up to that key 8 to be able to ultimate as soon as possible. Now, to help us cast those spells, those non-creature spells and those instant ramp spells, we're going to run both Goblin Electromancer and Baral, Chief of Compliance, which just reduce instant and sorcery spells by 1. So both of these work very well with the signature spell, as it reduces the cost by 1 of Contentious Plan, meaning that you can cast it a couple more times per turn. And that means everything when you're trying to get Sarkhan up to that 8 to ultimate. And then we're going to run some utility cards that help our dragons out. A honorary of Scourge of Valkas is the Dragon Tempest. Whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, it gains haste until end of turn. And whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to a creature or player where X is the number of dragons you control. So if we can get a proactive Dragon Tempest out, it's going to help us if for whatever reason the Scourge of Valkas isn't there. And if we have to turn into a grindy beatdown deck, this is another card that's going to help us take over the game. And then Temur Ascendancy is the other haste card. There are a bunch of cards like Fervor that gives haste to all of your creatures, but Temur Ascendancy plays double duty. It not only gives all your creatures haste, it also draws a card whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, and that's literally every dragon in our deck is going to be triggering the Temur Ascendancy. So there are our utility packages. Let's get into a very important aspect of this deck, which is ramp. So we're going to run the usual suspects in Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Explosive Vegetation, Farseek, Circuitous Route, Rampant Growth, and those will be our spells that are going to be ramping us out the lands we need to either cast our big dragons if we can't get Sarkhan out for whatever reason, or just ramp Sarkhan out so that we can play Sarkhan and have the mana to play Contentious Plans on the same turn. And those are something that can be reduced from Baral and Goblin Electromancer, and also the Flux Chandler and Evolutionary Sage get benefits off of casting these spells. So you're going to be wanting to run a lot of basic lands in the deck, as these need targets to actually grab them, and people forget that Oathbreaker is just a 60 card deck. So when you're building mana base, some people cut the basic lands because it's not like Commander where you have a lot more land slots to fill. Usually with Oathbreaker you want like 23 lands, 23 to 25, and you can easily do that without basic lands. I highly encourage you not to go that route this deck and play a bunch of basic lands. Now we're going to run a few other ramp in the form of creatures just because of how powerful these cards are. The first one being Arbor Elf. Arbor Elf is strong because it can untap your Shock Forests that we'll be running in this. So if we do need to hit particular double mana of whatever color, usually with the Stomping Grounds, Arbor Elf is a great target to untap it for red, or the Breeding Pool for blue. Birds of Paradise is just a great one-drop that can add any mana of any color to your mana pool. And we have the Bloom Tender, which is a very powerful card with Sarkhan because Sarkhan does have the 3-color identity, and so Bloom Tender will tap for 3 mana, a blue, a red, and a green. We also are going to running a package of Signets. Now this is optional. The Signets don't synergize. It does with Flux Chandler, but doesn't synergize with the Evolution Sage. So you can find some other ramp spells that there are plenty out there in the history of Magic. But I do like running the Signets, the Simic Signet, the Rule Signet, and the Izzet Signet. Since we are running a lot of basic lands, these do help us fix. And other than that, the rest of the slots are just with lands. So again, this is very customizable based upon the mana base that you deem fit. But for me, I'm running 3 forests, 3 islands, or excuse me, we're running 6 forests, 3 islands, 3 mountains, a Wooded Foothills, a Rootbound Crag, Hinterland Harbor, Steam Vents, Scalding Tarn, Stomping Ground, Command Tower, Misty Rainforest, Breeding Pool, Spire Garden, and Cinder Glade. So that's just a little overview of my Oathbreaker deck that I've been running, my more casual one. I'll have my competitive one that I sleeve up every time I want to be competitive with an Oathbreaker. Of course, that is the Elf Ball at this point in time, as I think is the most powerful Oathbreaker deck. And we'll get to that deck tech, I'm sure, in the next coming weeks. Hope you enjoyed this Oathbreaker video in celebration of the Oathbreaker format being a success. I am giving 15% off all of the cards that are contained in this deck. So I'll have a spreadsheet up of the list of cards that we do have, both the foils and non-foils that are contained in this deck. And you can go ahead and purchase those by contacting me at my email address at roguedeckbuilder@gmail.com. And I'd love to send you some cards to build this deck. This has been Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.